MoveOn has a new ad, and since we have someone who can speak to the organization and its efforts, we're going to take a look at this ad and then get some commentary.
The virus, a lot of people think that goes away in April with the heat. We're in great shape.
America is hurting tonight, from the stunning new unemployment numbers to the still climbing death toll.
I was just calling to check on him, and that's how I found out he was gone.
The virus looks like by April, in theory, when it gets a little warmer, it miraculously goes away.
For the first time in history, all 50 states are now under major disaster declarations.
COVID-19 is becoming like a sniper in the viral war, silently taking out healthcare workers.
When we get into April and the warmer weather, let's see what happens, but I think it's going to work out fine.
Staggering new developments in the pandemic. The death toll from the virus keeps rising.
Among the hardest hit, the nation's nursing homes.
It's hard for me to fathom. He went so quick.
That will go away in April. Looks like by April, miraculously goes away. We're in great shape.
Jordan, that's pretty effective. That some of those quotes, seeing people speak about the people that they knew that have passed, that is just devastating.
Yeah, the creative lab at MoveOn does fantastic work, consistently inspired by how they're able to, cut through the noise and find people in frontline communities who are directly impacted by the consequences of Trump's inadequate leadership. So shout out to Olga and Ann, who worked on that video and put it out, and it's now a part of an ad buy targeting key swing states to show people in critical voting blocks that, look, this is largely a product of Trump's inadequate leadership, his poor response, and how he tried to, as we mentioned earlier in the show, politicize this crisis and downplay the severity because he thought that would impact his reelection chances. So taking that message directly to voters, I think, is a really smart strategy. But it also shows this type of leadership or lack thereof leads to real world consequences, in some cases death. Mm-hmm. So, always something to be mindful of. But yeah, again, MoveOn's Creative Lab does fantastic work taking that messaging and going directly to the voters with it instead of some roundabout, convoluted way that maybe other groups might take. Exactly. And look, honestly, I hope that other Democratic organizations and indeed candidacies pay attention to work like that, because they've just seemed to lag so far behind. And you've probably seen over the course of the past 6 months or so, there's more and more of these Republican organizations. Generally, they're never Trumper organizations that have been coming out with devastating ads targeting different Republicans who continue to support the president. And especially when the target is the president. Like what you just saw in that ad, no one has ever produced enough material out of their own mouth willingly that will be devastating if you simply play it back to people. And that right there, that should be the model. We should see 100, 1,000 more ads like that running between now and the general election. So I hope that people in power are paying attention. Oh yeah, I hope so too. And I think you can get caught up in this using Trump's words and playing it back to him. You can kind of get caught up in that in a more of an out of touch way. So I think some people will be like, this is so indecent. He's violating the norms of the office. He's not upholding the dignity of the Oval Office. So that really doesn't resonate with people who are just working 2 to 3 jobs to make ends meet. That doesn't matter to people who really haven't seen any material impact or improvement in their lives for the past couple of decades. So to frame it in this elitist beltway framework doesn't really resonate with a lot of people, but plays well here. Plays well in DC, where you're appealing to donors and things like that. So it might maybe to the wealthy who are going to contribute to your organization, sure. But MoveOn's impact has always been keeping members and working people and frontline communities front and center throughout everything. So I think this is a good example of how they center that messaging and center that delivery and that tactic in their ads. And yeah, I'm glad you liked it. And thank you for the kind words. And I know people are going to be excited about that. Yeah, no, I mean, look. As I always say when you appear on the show, I love the tireless work that you do, especially on social media to spread the right sorts of messages and, gather people in pursuit of laudable goals. And, if an organization is doing the same thing, I think that we should support them too. So as always, thank you. And thank you to MoveOn as well. If you come out with future ads, definitely send them to us. We can't wait to see it.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.